When did you say, hey, I think I could make money doing this shit? I never know what introduction to put in because nobody's ever told me, right?
Yeah.
So I do like that little music because it kind of makes you like, it's just weird to sit down. So I never know, like, am I supposed to have a business on fire introduction? And then since it's y'all's first time, it's already nervous. And I don't want to be like, hey, this is Tommy with Business Under Fire.
Sure.
Today we've got Dodge FEELER. Like, I haven't worked up to that point yet.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, today we do have Dodge FEELER on Business Under Fire. He drove in from Austin, Texas today. And Dodge owns a company called
Way of Life Wellness.
And Way of Life, I was digging all over the website earlier, does all kinds of things. But what were you up to today?
So today I have one of my best friends. He owns this place called Awaken Ranch in Austin, Texas. And he has like cold plunge, sauna. There are a lot like yoga classes go through there. But what he really specializes in is ketamine therapy.
Yeah.
And so today he gifted myself and my wife a session where we had one of my really good friends, Melanie. She held space for us. And so we actually did a ketamine session today.
What was that like?
Well, it's when you do it, it kind of takes you out of your body. It's a little bit disassociative. So what we both went into it was we were wanting to just sort of see what are some things that are self-limiting in ourselves. Like what are some things that are keeping us from being our best self? And so when we did that, I was sort of I was unsure what to expect with it. I've tried some intranasal to help me with just going into deeper meditation or just sort of help myself regulate through things like breath work. And today I went in and I was like not knowing what to expect. I was just sort of floating above myself. And
you were floating above yourself, looking down.
I wouldn't say I was looking down. It was more like I could just feel myself above myself. But I was still, eyes are closed. I have a mask on. And then they have music playing throughout the whole session. But today, I was like, okay, so what's keeping myself from doing the best I can do, being of service, and just kind of fulfilling my purpose in this lifetime? And it's funny, growing up, I often had a lot of guilt and shame over a lot of sort of silly things just growing up in West Texas, and some self-loathing issues. And when I was in there, I just saw myself in the mirror. And I just started saying, I love you. I could just hear it resounding over and over and over again. And then I saw my stepdaughter, who I don't really refer to as my stepdaughter. We have a really good relationship.
She's just your daughter.
She's my daughter, yeah. We have an amazing relationship with her father. I consider him my brother. At the same time, I'm her Dodgy. I'm not her stepdad. I'm her Dodgy. Yeah. So yeah, I started seeing her and just seeing like that's the father I want to be. I want to help her be able to just really love herself and just grow and prosper and just be whatever it is that the universe is expecting of her.
I think with you saying that on your introduction and, why is Dodge here? And so when one thing I noticed when I met Dodge and started talking to Dodge, he said service. And that was a big part of why you were doing what you're doing today is caring, service. And so Dodge owns Way of Life Wellness, which is a medical regime steered towards customers' overall wellness. And so when did you decide, take us back a little bit through your background on how you got into the medical field, because what we just started with took a big jump.
Yeah, we really got in
quick. But that's where we're headed probably with a lot of this conversation. So we're going to focus on some business, how that works, how you've set all that up. But how did you get into the medical field. And before you answer, one thing that I've just completely noticed about Dodge is his service to people, caring attitude, compassion. And I think that you run that the entire way through your business with your clients. And that's one thing that attracted me to you, was seeing that.
Yeah.
So start us off on your journey of getting into medical.
Sure. It probably goes back to childhood. I definitely dealt with some weight issues, and so there's just there's bullying involved, and so I just had things to work through going through life. And when I got into probably about 15, 16 years old, my uncle started helping me work out, and I just really got into drinking my protein shakes and learning to eat whole food. But there were still struggles along the way. I still struggled with my weight off and on going through nursing school. But kind of going back, I thought, don't want to be a personal trainer.
Where did you go to nursing school?
Texas Tech.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So, I just, I couldn't figure out exactly what I wanted to do. I got my first bachelor's degree at North Texas. It was general studies. I really could not figure out what to do. At the same time, I was working physical therapy with my uncle. He owns Odessa Physical Therapy, and I just learned then, like, I love caring for patients. I loved all ages. I love the elderly. I love getting to know them and seeing them actually improve. And then I kind of fast forward, recession hit 2010. Next thing I know, I'm working at Halliburton, and
in the oil field.
In the oil field, yep. And it was a great experience. I kind of made it through all the seasons. I also just realized I'm working, basically gone 6 days in a row and nights, and I'm off for 3. And I just mentally, it was not, I proved to myself I could do it, but I knew that there had to be something more.
Don't you feel that anybody that is in the oil business, they get, and what if I'm wrong, whatever, but they get trapped out there. They make good money, they work their tail off, but I feel like most of those guys could go in and start working for themselves with the amount of mental, capability that takes to be out that long. And go through what they do. Like, they could go start their own job business easy.
I think, obviously oil field's always going up and down. I think a lot of times it's just, as a young guy, you're suddenly making $100K and you never even imagined being able to make that much money.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing you know, you got an RV, you got a
big
boat,
truck.
You get the biggest truck you can get.
Custom welded bed on the back.
Yeah. And
fat chick mud flaps.
Yep. Yeah. And a lot of time it ends up being lots of drinking and just, I think, and obviously a lot of guys, they don't go down that route, but I think a lot of it's easy to get sucked in, and it's easy to just be hard to like look and see what else could there be. And that for me, I saved my money up, and that's how I paid for my bachelor's degree at nursing school with Tech.
So you paid for your own school.
I did. My dad helped me with my first degree. Second one, he did help me a little bit. I lived at home for a lot of that because it was an accelerated program to spend 1 year just basically. It was like an apprenticeship, honestly. I was immediately in critical care with nurses that were, very advanced. And so I just kind of got to learn hands-on how to do that. And then I went into the ICU, and, the whole time I'm still very much, I'm kind of obsessed with like bodybuilding, building muscle. And so, I was always looking into just what can I do health-wise. At the same time, it was sort of to an unhealthy extent. It was like, it was an obsession, I think. And it was definitely sort of, I was doing it in a way to kind of build armor from my childhood of just the weight issues and not wanting to be, looked at a certain way.
You have a picture on your website, and you were a chunky little monkey. But sure, you're not a chunky monkey now at all.
Yeah.
And I always think that's funny. Like, whenever I want to see what I actually look like, I'll look in the mirror and I just cover my face. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that dude's kind of fat right now. Or, oh, he's in good shape right now. It's always hard to self-identify with how you look, because it's you. You can look at someone else, but when it's you and you carry it around every day, it just never really, I just never looks right to me. It's hard to judge your own body.
Yeah. I think the key there is to learn to not judge your body at all. It's to, try to look at that mirror and just even be proud of yourself for the accomplishments you have made, which is definitely, that's an ongoing process for myself. You can even spend some time looking in the mirror and, just kind of doing those self-affirmations, just telling yourself that you are enough and that you're capable. And
that could start with anywhere. I mean, I hadn't gone to the gym in forever, and I've made it 2 days straight, which is a big deal because sure. I've gone through phases where I've had a body like yours and worked
Yeah.
out like crazy and looked great, and then I do nothing. And they usually last for years. So I keep it up at the gym forever. And man, I've been putting it off for like 3 years, and it's so stupid because I'm the guy that's like, dude, if you want something, go get it.
Yeah.
And I'm telling people that, and I do it in business, but I'm not doing it with my own health.
Yeah.
And it's such a stupid letdown because at the end of the day, we know 2 weeks into this workout journey, I'm going to have to go to the gym because it feels so good that I don't want to skip.
Sure.
And I can't even make it to the 2 weeks. It's just dumb. It's mental exercise.
It is. It's also, I mean, I know how much you're traveling, so you have to be kind of easy on yourself there. At the same time, you have these businesses, you're highly productive, and, it's actually, I get a lot of patients who they've built businesses and their health has gone extremely poor because they're burning at both ends. And suddenly, they have all the money in the world that they need, but they don't have their health. And so, what good is having wealth if you can't enjoy it?
None. And that, you get in the cycle of working out and just really enjoy it. It is the mornings after you work out, just the whole day is better. And so it's so dumb for us to not do it. And if we do anything in this hour and a half, and one person decides to go to the gym
Absolutely.
because of us, we did our job.
For sure.
So you're in the ICU as a nurse, taking care of folks, and what are you thinking?
Well, I mean, I would never take back this experience. I was able to learn about death and just, I got to really get to know families. And, I met some of the most amazing nurses and physicians and administrators through that time. So there was things I loved about it, but, the 12 and 13 hour shifts, not expected to go, kind of expected to just work straight through. It takes a toll, and you can see that in the nurses that have been doing this for 30, 40 years, which they're also amazing humans. And, the service that they're doing for these patients that are extremely ill.
Yeah.
It's something that they're living their purpose,
We just had that conversation with another guy whose wife is a nurse at Guadalupe Regional in Seguin. And, they say a heart of a nurse. And they do have hearts, and they don't judge you on color, weight, age. They just care. And so it's a neat thing to see what they do. So you ICU nurse, and then when did you start your own journey of working for yourself?
So as an ICU nurse, my sister, who's also a nurse, she talked me into jumping a little bit ahead and just jumping right into nurse practitioner school about a year after that. And so I worked my way through as a nurse while going to school at the same time.
That is a lot of work.
It was a lot. I would not take it back at all.
How hard was nurse practitioner school? I've got a good little girlfriend that's in nurse prac school, like first semester. Great student, and it's putting the pressure on her.
It's a lot. It's a lot to keep up. You're looking at just books on books you're expected to read. You're writing papers. And if you're going to school at the same time, it's trying to just learn to balance all that.
What would you say to somebody going through nurse prac school right now?
Just keep going.
They're going to get through it.
And enjoy the process, because you're not going to have this time to study like you're studying right now when you get into NP roles. There's a lot of other resources. What you learn in school is not what's going to really happen in the real world a lot of the time. You end up kind of figuring out your own ways to help patients, and things change a lot, but it's going to give you a foundation on where to start.
For sure. So you get you finish PA school, and then where are we going?
So then I was a nurse practitioner with a hospitalist group in San Antonio. So I worked around the medical center, and I went to Maine Methodist, Methodist Transplant, and then also St. Luke's. And then I did a little bit of call with other patients around there, and I worked nights during that time.
A buff nurse prac running around with a bunch of nurses.
I was married during that time, so it was, and also nights. There's not a lot of people, but yes, that was definitely a thing.
Nurses and teachers. And so how did you decide, what What was the process for you to go, all right, I'm going to keep doing the a little bit of nurse prac, but then I'm going to jump?
So while doing that, I'm in the sick care model. I'm seeing arms and legs and things getting chopped off because diabetes is getting worse and worse, and we're getting put on more and more drugs, and we're not seeing improvement of quality of life. So she's like, there's got to be something we can do to actually prevent this stuff. And obviously, a lot of it is not even going to be medication related. It's going to be what we're just talking about: working out. It's watching what you're eating, which is tough in America, in today's society, just because it's really hard to even find high quality whole foods a lot of the time.
Well, it is tough, but we all make excuses. And for a while, I would not eat at a restaurant. I would only go to the grocery store for my meals. And it became a habit. And then the grocery store wasn't, or then the restaurants weren't even an option.
Sure.
So it's all about dedication.
It is. And just having a higher expectation for yourself, thinking that highly of yourself that you're not going to go that route. And at the same time, you go to a restaurant, you don't have any issues with it. You just enjoy it, and then you get right back to where you were.
It's so good, though.
It's nice to be served,
Yeah.
which is why, I don't pretend like I don't go out to eat, usually once a week, probably.
Man, I blow that out of the water.
It's going to vary from week to week too, and once again, if you're traveling, you just do the best you can.
Yeah. So you're seeing that all these people are having all these problems. There's got to be another way, and your brain's just turning.
Well, I'm doing this on my own. I'm still actively in the gym. I'm not in the greatest place. I'm still sort of in a toxic mindset of just adding as much muscle as I can, and I'm also drinking.
How big did you get?
At one point, I got to 250.
What do you weigh now?
Now I'm about 210.
Holy shit.
Yeah, my heart rate is now typically 60s, 70s. I got my blood pressure checked today. For the first time, it was regular. My mind is quiet most of the time.
Man, you were gigantic.
I didn't even realize how big I was, which that's where you realize body dysmorphia is truly a thing.
Man, that's 50 pounds. I've gotten to where shirts wouldn't even just fit on my arms. You're like, holy crud.
Yeah, I mean, at my biggest, I was close to double XL, and now larges are fit pretty well for me.
God, that is big.
Well, yeah, but I'm spending 5 days a week, 2 to 3 hours in the gym. Think of all the things I was missing out on.
Did you carry a 1 gallon water jug?
I never really did that.
Oh, then
I
you're
definitely
okay.
carried around a big big jug. But
What about a duffel bag?
I did have a massive duffel bag with weightlifting shoes, weight belt. I still use a weight belt sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'm not pushing for those crazy high numbers with bench and deadlift. Well, I can't really even bench anymore because thanks to going so hard on the bench, I now have issues with my pec and my bicep, and I've torn this bicep, and that's also where I kind of got into the world of peptides too.
We'll start talking about some of the wellness stuff and how you jumped into it.
So, I was working as a hair restoration surgeon. First thing I did was I worked for a men's health clinic where I started learning a lot about hormones, and I treated women as well. And then I worked for a physician who he's a very well-known hair restoration surgeon, and I got to learn all the aspects of that, which I learned valuable information. I learned how to be a leader in a lot of ways, and at the same time, my passion has always been treating the patient, treating the whole patient. And one day I have 2 really good friends. One's a nurse, and then I have an esthetician. Her name's Audrey, and they're like, "Dodge, you're talking about this stuff all the time." And then that's whenever the GLP-1s came out, semaglutide and tirzepatide, which are just wildly popular. I said, "Why don't you let's just start prescribe these for us and just start working with us." And next thing I know, they're having improvements with their autoimmune disease. They're losing significant weight. They're seeing big improvements, and then it just started off with word of mouth. This was just a side business. The physician, Dr. McGrath, was totally cool with me doing it as I did it, as I was growing. And next thing I know, I have 10 patients, and then 30 patients, and then it started becoming more and more. And kind of around that time was when I went through my divorce, which the divorce kind of fueled my anger to build it more. I kind of dove into growing it in those ways. And lastly, I was like, I don't want to just do these. I don't want to just prescribe GLP-1s for the rest of my life. And so I already knew a whole lot about hormones and just ways to help with liver disease and thyroid and things like that. And so I just started getting more and more complex cases. And then I just kind of hit a point where, as much as I appreciated what I was getting to do as a hair restoration surgeon, we decided it was best to kind of part ways. It was a little bit abrupt. But once we did that, I just kind of jumped full force into this, and I got an amazing business partner. His name's Oscar. He lives out in California, but he's helped me build my website. He's amazing at coding.
Y'all are super high tech on the website stuff too, and the way that y'all do patient intake, implement stuff, prescribe stuff, and we'll get into that and run us through that process in a little bit. So. The guy out of California, how does he fit into your business?
So he manages all the website stuff. He's helped me with it's called Practice Better. It's an electronic medical record. He's helping me just kind of create automations, because at this point, it's basically myself, him, and then my wife helps me some. So we manage everything. So we're learning how to create different, like just AI automations to make it where it's as seamless as possible. And it's still definitely a work in process. There's still, some little hiccups in it all, but yeah, over time it's making it where two people are able to manage over, 400 patients at this point. And we're just, we want to make a very amazing, like just an amazing concierge business. I try to have where everything can be shipped to the patient's door. And, we're also trying to get to the other aspects, like teaching ways to kind of improve yourself mentally as well.
So in a, in a nutshell, or however long you feel like taking, tell us, give us an overview of what you guys do.
It's a very wide range. I get patients that come in and they just want to lose weight. And so a lot of time we'll just start there. Or they may just, like I get a lot of men who need testosterone replacement therapy.
What's a weight loss deal look like these days? Take Ozempic and call me in the morning, or is that going to go to a meal plan?
I do try. So we also are working on having health coaching available. I have a white labeled app where we're actually sending workouts, and then we have something called That Clean Life that's giving macros and even meal plans. So, doing Ozempic by itself, we have issues with losing muscle mass and just losing weight in general. And then we have a bigger issue at the end, because what we're going to do is fix metabolic disease. And if we're losing our muscle mass, then we have much bigger issues coming. And you're going to end up gaining, get off that, then you're going to end up gaining the weight back, but not the muscle.
So what's, is your first recommendation on weight loss just diet? And then what else are you going to prescribe?
So if depending on where they're at, it may just be a GLP-1 to start, and then we help them lose some weight. And then we'll check some labs and see, is a woman in perimenopause, or is a man just severely deficient in testosterone? So all of those things can help. Obviously, if a man's low in testosterone, it's going to be hard for him to gain muscle mass, and he's also going to be low in dopamine, and his drive to even just get things done are going to be really tough. So sometimes it's that. I'll often prescribe some different peptides that help with improving growth hormone, which also helps with fat loss and holding onto muscle mass. And then, sometimes there's thyroid problems, or there may be gut issues, or, so many of us have fatty liver disease, whether it's alcoholic or non-alcoholic. So a lot of times it's also treating the liver. And then, we'll do gut testing sometimes, and just a lot of time we'll find that the good bacteria is missing. And so we try to clean that environment up by just getting rid of the inflammation and replacing what needs to be replaced.
If somebody's going to go get these tests done, where are they going to their doctor and then sending you the results?
So I have a few, the gut test, it's going to be shipped to their door. So it'll be a stool sample. A lot of the labs, I use CPL a lot in Texas at this point, but I also have a few other ones that can be like where the phlebotomist actually comes to the patient's house and gets labs drawn that way. And yeah, it makes it, they'll have to go to a place a lot of time unless they want the phlebotomist to come. But I set it up through different labs throughout Texas at this point.
And then how easy is it to stay in contact with you guys on these, do y'all call them clients or patients?
Patients.
So how easy is it for them to stay in contact with you guys?
So with my electronic medical record, we actually have it where there's direct messaging with me. We're working on making it where they can also message like an administrator and a health coach, just because I get a little bombarded with messages at the same time. But I manage to usually get back within typically less than 24 hours, sometimes up to 72, or vacation. We'll put up a little automation. And yeah, so we have direct messaging. A lot of them are on memberships with me where, if they need a consult, we just schedule the telemed and we find a time to go over everything, which is, whenever I go over the labs, a lot of time I'm finding different supplements to help with detox pathways and inflammation and just figuring out ways that I can help them with the environment that they're in.
That's incredible that you're juggling, or managing would be a better word.
Yeah.
But it's business. You're juggling. It's like that analogy when you've got, 5 plates spinning and you add the 6, eventually one's going to drop. But you're managing 400 patients with you and one other person, and then whatever your wife wants to do in there too, which is, on a business perspective, is absolutely incredible.
It is. We're getting to a point where I think it's not long before we definitely have to add some additional help, just because I want to be, if I'm going to be the provider, I want to be the best provider I can be. And so sometimes if I'm busy dealing with the taxes and everything else, I'll be a little bit scattered. But that's why at this point, I only see patients a couple of days a week. And then the other days I'm studying, trying to get even more knowledge. And then I'm also just managing other things. And also, I got out of the 9 to 5 so that I could take care of myself. So I'm leading in integrity by taking that time to get out in nature and, get my son in the dirt, feel the sun on my back, jump in the river. So
that's something that a lot of people that work for themselves don't do, and is important.
What's the point? What's the point of making all this, of making a lot of money, or you have all this free time if you're not filling your own cup?
I know. That is interesting, and you should come first.
You have to.
Yeah.
You should have your cup full, and then you give the overflow.
Well, you don't have anything to give if you're giving everything.
Yeah, you're pouring from an empty cup.
And I juggle my life. I mix in my pleasure or time all into work. It's just, if I'm, like today, I was in Port Aransas for a few hours. I did a couple fun things this morning, meetings, and so I just mix it all in there. But if I'm going to leave for 2 or 3 days, I'm leaving. But my part-time job is flying jets, and it is a tough job. When there's bad weather or stuff like that, it is a tough job. But if the weather is good, it's just hanging out. If you're looking for the best Tex-Mex in Lubbock, Texas, look no further than Miguel's. We're located right off of Broadway. In addition to great Mexican food, Miguel's building inside and outside is 100% hand-painted by local artists. So if you're the artsy type and you want to spend a little bit of time and get a meal at a great restaurant, come see what we have at Miguel's. You won't be disappointed.
From our conversations, which we've had quite a few, they always, like, you're as a patient, and next thing we know, we're talking about nothing to do with that at all. It seems like really, like, the businesses you have are kind of created so that you can do that.
I think they are, and the restaurants are tough, but I always wanted to fly for a living my whole life. I wanted to be an airline pilot, but I was broke growing up.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to my dad really till I was about 17. And so, pilot training is very expensive. On top of being very expensive, September 11th happened when I was graduating or about to graduate college. So that opportunity just wasn't there. And my dream was to always fly jets for a living. And I was not going to let that dream slip away. And so I do that part-time now. And I don't know if I'm going to do it for 5 years or 10 or 20. Mm-hmm. I've got an opportunity on a beautiful airplane, a Gulfstream 5 that I believe is going to come up in, 18 months or something like that. And I actually had that on my plan when I was like 55 to retire and fly G5s. And I'll be damned if it hasn't presented itself. And I've got to wait for a year or a year and a half. But this client that has that plane, they only fly 1 or 2 times a month. It's a gigantic salary. And I don't know. Were you talking about speaking stuff into
Yeah,
existence?
that's what we were talking about earlier. Is, like I mean, you can call it a prayer, or you can put it in the meditation. That that's like I live on the river, and I wanted that since I was a kid, and then someday, like, bam, the opportunity came, and I'm like, how did that happen? And that's, you have to speak it into existence. You write it down. You do whatever you have to do, and you don't know how it's going to come out. And that does come down to quantum physics. The energy is met, and then something is going to come out of that. So it's also like, what emotion are you in while you're calling that in?
We just had Ian Acosta here, and he actually demonstrated something with splattering paint through a small hole. And that paint, you would think it goes straight through there, but when they recorded it, it actually went out. So you tied that in with quantum something, but it's
the slip. I cannot think of the exact name, but yeah.
Have you heard of that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so it's just crazy that me meeting these entrepreneur guys and business guys that, at the end of the day, you're in the top 1% of performers in business and life. And so I never knew what was going to happen with this podcast, but it's learning that I'm dealing with and talking to the top 1% of performers, which is not a bad place to hang out.
For sure.
And so that's kind of one of the funny things about, doing this podcast, and that I've just recognized a pattern with the last two guests and the way that they think. And there's a book called U Squared by Price Pritchard that studied quantum leaps. And it's just wild that it's a real thing.
I mean, it's a mindset, it's sometimes you don't know the science behind it, but most of us who are finding ways to do things differently, to kind of, wake up to a different way and realize, like, we don't want to walk around and just be on autopilot the rest of our lives. It's, you can use, like, the trendy terms like manifesting and things like that, but there are just these kind of interesting secrets to the universe that some people just get it, and sometimes it can be learned. You don't know when it's going to happen.
Do you feel like you've gotten everything you ever wanted?
I would say right now I'm very thankful for where I'm at. I definitely have some things I'd like to bring in still. I'm very interested in creating, like, retreat space for others. So I think it's being grateful for where you're at. But yes, there's definitely some things that I'm still hoping to bring in eventually.
What would, like, a 2 or 3 day wellness retreat look like for you?
What I would love is, obviously we're going to have just really healthy food, kind of detoxing from social media, screens in general. I think, whether it's peptides or IVs, and we definitely want to have nutritional and supplements and things that are just really helping the body detox. And whether it's things like ketamine or just, taking that time to actually just reflect and have silence and just kind of learn to be in a parasympathetic state in a world that we are always in fight or flight.
Would that be a 2 or 3 day deal, event?
I could go either way. I think 3 days. First day, I mean, you go on vacation. First day, you're like, I don't know what to do because I'm not messaging. I'm not on my Instagram. I'm not doing all these, things. And then the second, you're like, oh, you kind of, like, relax. So I would say probably at least 3 days, preferably. At the same time, there can be value in any time that you're able to walk away from what's happening and kind of reflect. It's going to be beneficial.
I think you could have I want to have an event at the hangar. The podcast is in an airplane hangar in Seguin, Texas, and I want to have an event, but I don't know what to label it and I don't know what to do. But I want to do it because I've never done it, and it's so it looks like a big task. But what you just labeled or said of doing a 2 or 3 day wellness event, I feel like you could sell that in seconds. Like, pick a site, a center.
Yeah.
You guys could get it out. I feel like you run that 4 hours in the morning, take a lunch, 4 hours at night. I think people would sign up for us in a second.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's not a matter of if, it's when. You know, we've already talked about even us doing some like men things, you know, some men group like things, and I keep just being fortunate enough to meet people that are capable of that. You know, I'm working with a local IV clinic in town in New Braunfels that they can help service patients close by, and they also have one in Austin that can help out. So, yeah, the possibilities are endless. It's just a matter of the minds coming together and making it happen.
Execution.
Yeah, it can't be one person. I can tell you. I keep trying to do that. It does not work out well at all.
Well, you're running a business with 2.5 people, 3 people with 400 people. I mean, I love when people say things like that and they're doing that, because most people, if they didn't know, would say that's impossible.
Well, I hadn't really thought about it that closely until I just said it out loud. I was like, oh, that's pretty significant.
We had a guy on here the other day. He owns all of the games that you play on the computer. So if you Google solitaire, backgammon, blackjack, he's got about 100 websites. So he pops up on all of those things, and he has 7 employees that do that. And at any given second during time, there's 500,000 people on that thing. He makes all of his money off of advertising, and he was such a fun guy to have around. But
that's an incredible conversation, or just even how he got into that. That's what I love to learn about, you know, businessmen, is what made you step into that role. You know? I met a guy a few months ago who he got in the gourmet cookie, like dog cookie business, and I mean he's like a millionaire at this point, and it's not a brand you've ever heard of, but he has the right clients who want to buy that stuff in bulk.
And I guess when you find, like, you in your business, you found a passion through watching people that were sick and having issues, and that's when that might have been what they call your light bulb moment, and you care. And so tell us a story, a testimonial on one of your patients and the transformation that's occurred on a couple of your patients, how it started.
I have a couple I'd love to share, but
share away.
Probably one of my very first patients, she's not even gonna care if I say her name. Her name's Leslie. We are still extremely close. She's not needing my help as much. At the same time, she's still my patient. But, you know, she's someone who she just had a lot going on. Just, you know, a lot of darkness in her life. And I started her on weight loss meds, and then she had something called PMDD, which is just it causes it wreaks a lot of havoc on a female's cycle. Lots of inflammation, lots of insulin resistance. And so we just started working there. First we did that, and then I added in some supplements to try to help with her cycle. And then I started suggesting for her to, like, I was like, go get yourself out in the sun, you know, get her, meditate. And I just kept saying it. And, you know, I don't want to make this too much about me, because she did the work, but she started going to the gym. And I watched her. She's lost 131 pounds. Absolutely amazing. You know, she's doing amazing work. She's engaged now. She ended up having some plastic surgery done, where now she's by far she's the best version of herself at this time, and you know, she's an artist. So it's just, you know, like, that's why I do this. It's all about connection. You know, it's the human touch.
And how's her, you know, well-being from when you met her to where she is now?
There's no comparison. I mean, now, you know, back then she was in a dark place, and I've witnessed her empower herself. You know, she's really stepped into her own sovereignty, and she's become an independent person. And honestly, I hope someday she's working for me, just because I adore her. But yeah, it's just like, that story is one of my, just like, how is that possible? And then, you know, one of my best friends, you know, he's a Marine. So we both kind of started drinking at the same time, 16, it is what it is.
I started at 17, but I don't think I drank again until I was about 20. I just didn't like it.
Yeah.
Were you drinking heavy at 16?
I just didn't know what I was doing. You know, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I broke up with a girl, and I thought I needed something. And then then you have that drink, and you never done anything like that. And it's just like, wow. And you just kind of fall into it. It's kind of a West Texas mindset.
Jumping tumbleweeds and drinking Miller High Life. Yeah. Do you drink now?
I very occasionally will have I went on a date with my wife a few weeks ago, and I had a margarita. But most of the time, I have no interest in it.
Yeah. I haven't drank in probably 5 years.
Yeah.
I get mocktails, though.
Yeah, the mocktails can be nice.
And some people make some really good ones.
They do.
And I don't think I'll ever drink again. I get migraine headaches, which I think I told you about. And, after a few, I would just drink and then I get a migraine.
Yeah.
Then I was taking the migraine pill and drinking, and I did that for about 5 days. And I said, this is just stupid.
It's not worth it.
And so, that was the end of that. And I'd like the analogy that you'll never hear anybody say I gave up drinking and my life went to shit.
For sure.
And, I got to stay busy no matter what. So if you do quit drinking, you've got to fill that time with something else.
You get to fill that time.
Yeah.
I mean, so I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, you do. But I mean, because at 5 o'clock, if me and you are drinking, we're going to the bar.
Yeah.
And we're going to stay till 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Till we think we're just sober enough to drive home.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't miss it. I don't miss hangovers.
No, I mean, it wreaks havoc on your lipid profile. It's a high risk for diabetes, and just alone, our diet alone is enough to make an impact on our liver. We don't really need the extra help.
What are break down the negative effects of drinking for somebody that drinks for 10, 15, 20 years? What have you seen?
Well, I mean, for me personally, and it's hard to know because I mentioned to you before we started, I had multiple concussions growing up. I would say it definitely caused some attention deficit disorder. It probably made it worse. It messes up your dopamine, your serotonin. It's a depressant. So you're much more likely to be living life and just horrible anxiety for really no reason.
All day till you could cope at night.
Mm-hmm. There's a reason why. Like you drink it and it actually stops it starts antidiuretic hormone. So you're peeing a ton, like you break the seal, and then the next day you're holding tons of water weight. That's why you get really puffy and it's just tons of inflammation. It's hard on your kidneys. At the same time, you're not gonna wreck your life by having a couple drinks here. But it's just doing it consistently. It takes a toll. It causes fatty liver disease, which I think is just probably one of the biggest things. But you don't realize what's happening until you get past it.
Well, I don't know. I don't miss it very much at all. Sometimes the only thing I think is that the idea of the 5 or 6 beers sounds like a good time to me.
Yeah.
But I'm not going back and doing it. But I do love the outlaw behavior.
I mean, I love Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, so I was listening to all that. So I thought it was a good idea. And I mean, if I go to the beach, a lot of time I'll have a couple pina coladas or whatever, and I feel no shame about it at all because I know that I may go months without another drink.
So I was texting my business partner today. I did pictures on the beach with a gallon of prickly pear margarita, and whatever, we'll let it fly. He goes, wow, you fell off the wagon again. I said, well, if I did fall off the wagon, it would be with a gallon of prickly pear and an Adderall. And he goes, well, you might as well, we call them red and blue cans, Bud Light and Budweiser. He goes, you might as well throw some red and blue cans in there too. I said, well, fuck it. If we're going, we're going.
Might as well do it.
But just those memories, like Daniel and I used to have a great time going to the ranch and drinking like a fish. And it was a good time.
For sure. Yeah. I don't think there's any reason to regret it. It's what brought you to where you are.
Yeah. Man, with him and I had such great times heading down there. Stressed out from work, mowing grass, landscaping, dealing with those customers, which God bless anybody in the landscape business. There's no landscaping's interesting because there's no set standard. So it's to your eye, just like artwork. And I think, I look at landscape projects as artwork. I don't know if you saw the flower bed on the outside of.
I saw where you were starting.
Yeah, but it's just stuff like that. And so when you go install your plants at Miss Jones, it might look great to Dodge, but Miss Jones wants her, sago palm turned this way, my sage this way. And so it's just always something. So God bless anybody in landscaping. Tough deal.
It is.
Give me another story of a patient that came to you guys and a treatment plan that worked out good for them and what happened with them?
I'd probably say one of my. I mean, he's one of my good friends also, but he was just to a place where the drinking had gotten out of hand. He was probably about 70 pounds overweight, and he just kept to a place where it was kind of a fork in the road. Like there's looming marriage issues and other things coming if he didn't make a change. And I was kind of around whenever it happened, and I was just like, dude, let me help you, please. And it was like we just kind of worked together on it, and I still want to give him most of the credit because he's the one who's like, he brought in that structure of a Marine, and he started putting his energy into going to the gym. I did put him on testosterone and some other things. He had some issues with acute pancreatitis, which is extremely painful, and every time you get it, you're more likely to get it again. So he came in with just different digestive enzymes just through the roof, and yeah, he turned it around. He started meal prepping. He just started changing everything. So he took all the supplements I suggested, and we checked his labs 3 months later, and his liver enzymes are all down. There's no signs of pancreatitis, and I think at this point he's down 40 or 50 pounds. And I mean, he's starting to look like he did in high school. He was a high school football player and just a stud, and he's right back there. And I had to talk to his wife and say, look, we will be in communication. If you don't like what I'm doing, you just message me. I was like, but I want to help save his life, And he did the work, and I got to be a support system for it. And I mean, that's what it's all about. And if you can help someone that you've been friends with for over 30 years, I don't think there's any bigger reward in life than that.
So in y'all's health practice, you were starting to work with psychedelics.
So it's an avenue we're looking down.
Before you run down that avenue,
Sure.
what are some of the benefits of psychedelics? And what does that mean?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a wide range of different psychedelics ranging from, things from the earth, like, there's mushrooms, and there's something called bufo, that's frog venom, which those are not legal.
Holy
I don't prescribe
moly.
those. Yeah. But the only legal one right now is ketamine. But they're doing tons of research on things like, you've probably heard of MDMA. So a lot of those they're doing research on, and a lot of them they help take us out of our ego. They can be a little bit disassociative. They also help actually rewire the brain. So, we get in these patterns of just, self-loathing or just, being in a poor mindset. And then you start working toward those goals of changing your outlook on life, changing what you're doing. And then you do these, and they help you just see the bigger picture. They take you out, that we get in that in our ego, and we're in that small mindset. We're in limiting beliefs, thinking like this is my plot. This is what I'm stuck with. When it just really is a matter of just taking that first step.
And are those legal in Texas?
No, ketamine is at this time the only one that's actually legal. So a lot of time it's, going out of the country, or, finding someone that's able to work with, like Bufo's actually worked. There are practitioners that work with like the native tribes in Mexico to be able to get a hold of that. So
that is a wild.
And it's it really can just blow the floodgates open to the possibilities in this life, I'm working with another person in the military who he did bufo, and he had issues, just lots of things that happened in his life. I won't get into the stories of it, but he did it, and he's like, I don't ever want to drink again. And it hadn't even really crossed his mind to stop drinking.
I have a buddy that had kind of severe depression in and out of therapy their whole life, and they've been going to ketamine sessions and stuff like that, and I think it's really helping them.
Well, ketamine's amazing. It's just it hits something called an NMDA receptor that it helps calm the mind. It helps with regulation. It's just the key with all of these is you still have to do the work. It's like you can't just go to church and you're saved. Like, we can pretend that that's a thing, but you still have to do the work. Mm-hmm. And so if you're not learning ways to regulate yourself and, quit. I mean, the biggest thing is getting out of your victim mindset. Oh, woe is me. That was what I was in my divorce. The whole time I'm like, oh, it's all her fault. And then, I had some experience with psychedelics, and I kind of looked at myself and I was like, no, this was all me. it's not my job to fix her.
Yeah.
It's my job to fix myself.
Yeah.
And now I have nothing but love for her. I mean, and I just realized like I am the orchestrator of my life, and that's what you have to come to realization to.
I feel like nobody cares. Like it's up to you. There's no woe is me. Nobody's gonna. You might have a friend that'll listen to the story.
Yeah.
But eventually, it's time to put your big girl or boy pants on and look in the mirror.
For sure.
And sometimes that's hard to face the fact of the way it is, and that's just the way it goes. In my mind, I could be completely wrong, but
I mean, misery loves company, so you can always find someone that'll sip on a beer and listen to that with you. But if you want to elevate yourself in life, you make a friend like you who is going to be like, dude, get off your ass and let's go.
And it sucks, but it's so true. Like just sitting there sulking, and I went through a divorce, and man, nobody should ever have to go through that. It's so painful. Probably one of the hardest. They say it's harder than death because you keep seeing this person over and over, and it just tugs your strings out. And whenever somebody's going through divorce, I tell them, look, there's light at the end of the tunnel. It's a long tunnel, but you're going to get there. And man, that is tough. But again, church groups are good for that because they'll listen. There's other people going through it, working to get you out of it. But hopefully, if you're thinking about going through a divorce, try to fix that and patch that up.
Well, I mean, be honest with yourself. Is it possible? But I mean, would you also say when you went through your divorce that it was actually an opportunity for crazy expansion and massive growth?
Mine was interesting. That did occur. I worked a lot, so my my ex-wife just kind of thought I didn't care, and so the story is she got a boyfriend named Miguel, which we have a restaurant named Miguel's after her. That's why I named it Miguel's.
That's hilarious.
And so if that's not shallow, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
But I also say, what's a white guy supposed to name a Mexican restaurant?
For sure.
And the thing with my ex-wife and I preach it to everybody, is her and I are, we are so tight.
Yeah.
I couldn't have a better my kids could not have a better mom. She does a fantastic job. I still love her to this day. And I really can't say enough good things about her. She's been wonderful. My kids are wonderful. And I chalk a lot of that up to her. So on growth and expansion because of the divorce, when you give a 37-year-old guy that owns a bar and is in pretty good shape, the world, and he's a outgoing dude, and shit, you can go do whatever you want. And
sometimes you have to take a little descent before you go up, though.
Yeah,
I did that too.
And so once I got divorced, man, it was a wild ride and a lot of fun. I was completely blind to the fact that women liked anything to do with me when I was married.
Yeah.
And when I got divorced, wow. I was like,
well, it's a change in energy shift. Like you're suddenly open.
Yeah.
It's like they can smell it.
Yeah, they can. I was dad one weekend and drunk the next.
Yeah.
And so it's man, it's a rough thing. I feel bad for anybody going through divorce. It's just not fun.
It is brutal, but it's another one of those that makes us what we are, and it's an opportunity to really take in those lessons and don't go through them again.
Because a lot of people probably got married because it was a thing to do.
For
you
sure.
finished college, you got a job. Now I need to get married, and guess who's here? This person here.
Yeah,
Let's get married and try it out.
We're taught this, fairy tale watching Disney movies our whole life, and so you think that's just gonna be all rainbows and light. When it's no, whoever you marry, you're taking in all their shit.
Yeah.
Like and they're taking yours, and you're mirrors of each other. And so you if you want to do it in a way that's actually beautiful, is you actually work through those things together. You don't, which a lot of time it ends up being resentment. You just quit talking about it.
And I feel like you're brave because you're working with your wife.
I'm very careful because I don't want things to go south. It's very gentle. She's actually an intimacy coach.
I read that too,
Yeah.
and so we can spend about 5 minutes on what
Sure.
that means.
Sure. It's definitely not all about sex.
Well, shit, I'm not interested anymore.
I mean, honestly,
what is an intimacy coach? Because I read that earlier and it piqued my interest.
So she would be able to explain this way better than I would.
And is this part of Way of Wellness business?
So I don't know that she's going to be specifically an intimacy coach, but she uses her tools all the time, and I've learned her tools because she uses them on me. Mm-hmm. Of course, if we get in a fight, all tools that we've learned go out the window. At the same time, it's really just it's a lot about intimacy. It's going deeper in a relationship. So it's learning how to have a relationship with yourself. Obviously, a partner is the deepest relationship you're going to go into, but it's really just learning how to see past your own BS and create a partnership that's actually going to last.
And what are some tips or tactics that can you use an example? Use one of the examples that you use when a situation comes up.
Well, I mean, when we first started dating, she had a toddler, and so we're just trying to figure out how to make this work. And I'm taking everything personal because I'm still somewhat traumatized from my divorce. And just by kind of watching how she did things, I started learning that whatever was happening with her had nothing to do with me. And I mean, it's simple things like that. Like, it's learning, like, you have to be your own person. You have to be independent, and you cannot be reliant on somebody else's stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of the intimacy, though, is just like de-shamifying, the things that, once again, grew up in West Texas. So there's a lot of guilt and shame with just about anything that you do, or if you choose to perceive it that way. Not everyone's doing that, but it's going through things that you considered that were shameful when you were younger and de-shamifying. It's kind of like, actually, it's not something to be necessarily proud of, but it's something that is very normal that a lot of us go through.
Yeah, your childhood definitely shapes your future.
For sure.
But you don't have to bring it with you.
No, you get to grow and become your own person.
Well, you said something earlier too that I like, is that you're even in your practice right now, you're doing things to learn.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've paid much attention to like AI and things, but I mean, the knowledge, the information, it's like a fire hydrant.
Yeah.
Like you try to read and pay attention to every single thing you can, and you have to know you can't learn it all at once. So it's learning how to slow down and take that stuff in and integrate it as you can figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, but the always learning part on what you're doing is just imperative on staying it, because AI might be a computer, but you're messing with humans.
For sure, and you can't lose the human touch. I mean, some of those things are great tools. You still have to pay attention to the actual information coming in, and you can't just blindly run with it.
Yeah.
With she's using her tools, but what we really want to do is we're calling it change work. It's kind of looking at everything as a system. You have the eating disorder. There's going to be a lot more than you're just eating too much. You have to look at the hormones. You have to look at what's happening to the liver. At the same time, you have to like, why is the overeating happening? And so it's the change work is actually changing your own personal reality. So you're essentially going to change your personality, and that's actually where she'll be using her tools, and then she's also going to be working with the patients to slowly change the way they actually perceive reality. And that's there's a lot of it will be different, like breath work, learning things like heart-brain coherence, learning how to truly like meditate, pray, whatever you wanna call it, and then just
like Kinky Friedman used to say, whoever y'all go pray to whoever you pray to.
Exactly. Yeah. No. But it's true. Like it's learning to like let go of that worry all the time. Because I mean, if you look back, most of the time, what were you like? Did any of that stuff come true? Did any of that worry actually happen?
Man, I've got to remind myself of that a lot, because I'm always worried about something in the future, and usually it's just with work and business. And I have to remind my partner sometimes. I'm like, man, place has been here for 50 years. Mm-hmm. We're doing the hardest work we possibly can. We're all doing the best job. It's not going anywhere. And if you keep stoking the fire, it's going to stay lit.
Yeah.
If you stop, well, then you might have some problems. So, well, where can these people find you, Dodge?
So I don't have much of a presence on social media at this point. I have my own personal, which is just Dodge FEELER, that name is was pretty easy for me to get. And I also it's WAYOLWPM for Precision Medicine. That's Instagram. Once again, I don't post a lot on there. Probably the easiest way would be to get on the website at wayolw.com.
Wayolw.com. Mm-hmm. And then they can start their journey to wellness. And if they do go in, what does enrolling a customer or a patient look like? What's when somebody reaches out to you first, what are they going to get?
So typically, great timing on my grabbing a drink there.
That's all right.
Typically, I don't charge a lot for my initial consultation at this point because I'm like, if you don't want to do this, then I'm okay with that. But it's typically about a $75 charge, so we can at least have a conversation. And we'll just sort of, what are the goals? What's going on? And I get things from just young guys who want to see, like, am I at an optimal place? And so I'll kind of make some, get on creatine, use some protein shakes, add in these supplements to help yourself. I sometimes get the cases that nobody knows what to do with. And I'm like, I don't know the answers, but I will research them. And I have pretty good resources of people I can reach out to help. And I even sometimes will hire just like gut biome experts to help me look at it, because once again, I don't have all the answers. I'm actively learning as quick as I can. So it's really fascinating. I never know what I'm about to walk into whenever I jump on those calls.
When they call, and then so once they call, you come up with a plan.
So it's actually a telemed. I try to answer the phone at the same time. It's kind of the two people. It's typically they'll sign up, and then we will hop on a Zoom call.
And then what happens when they give you all of their problems? You come up with a plan?
Come up with a game plan. Depending on where they're at, sometimes I'm like, okay, I need to work on all this data, come up with a plan, and I'll set up a protocol where it'll just kind of be pretty in-depth. When to take what, my suggestions, and then I'll try to work with them. Does it fit the budget? And I typically can find something that can help pretty much anyone at any type of budget with that. So I am curious if, like, say 20 years ago, like what would you tell your younger self now?
Well, now you made me think of the question that I ask a lot of people. Okay. They'll edit out all these ums.
I know. I'm working really hard at losing the ums, but
the question was, what would I tell myself 20 years ago? Mm-hmm. I haven't been asked that, but I would tell myself or anybody that whatever goal that you have with regards to business, home, mm-hmm. whatever it is, go after it. There's going to be a lot of shit thrown at you. There's going to be a lot of obstacles. Mm-hmm. There's going to be more obstacles than you have ever dealt with. Stuff comes up that you could never imagine. But every single one of those obstacles in my life, I've overcome. It's whether it be a broken dishwasher or a lawsuit. And when you work for yourself, all of those are going to come up. You've got malpractice insurance. Mm-hmm. We've got insurance if somebody falls. And be prepared to stick your neck out there a little bit. It's just kind of the way it goes. Yeah. But, when I imagine, I like to look back, at the Facebook memories 5 years ago, mm-hmm. 7 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And I actually can't even believe where I'm at from 5 years ago or 20 years ago. Yeah. And 20 years ago, I had calluses on my hands from holding weed eaters for 10 and 12 hours a day. I wore shin guards so the grass wouldn't hit my shins.
I still have scars from that.
And I had yellow glasses so I could see the grass better. Just like that cup right there. Yeah. But, that's a interesting thought. What would you tell yourself 20 years ago?
Hey, you have no idea what you're capable of.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being, 18 years old, working in an oil field job and going to college because fortunately my dad's a dean of fine arts in Midland. And so he was very persistent about me going. And I started thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do with life. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I'd rather just drink on the weekends and chase girls. I should just quit my job. Like, this $15 an hour job is not that bad. Like, I'm not going to really make anything of myself. I think back and I'm like, I'm so glad I didn't do that. And so, I just said, like, you have no idea what you're capable of. Just keep going, and it's going to all turn out beautifully, exactly as it should.
Yeah. That's a lot, but it's true, man. I mean, you got 400 patients. You're a PA, which is basically a doctor, and you're doing it with 2 people. You've got a great wife that you love, a great daughter, and you would have never imagined that 20 years ago.
I wouldn't have imagined that 5 years ago.
So this is proof for everybody listening that 2 knuckleheads can make it and chase their dreams. He's got a house where he wants. I've got several houses where I want, restaurants where I want them, working with people that I love working with. You love working with your patients, and it's not an easy road. It's a bumpy road to get there. But once you get there, it becomes a lot easier to stay on cruise control and stay there. But it is a challenge. But like Dodge said, you are capable of way more than you could ever imagine.
I think it's also important to find guys like you, guys that, you look up to, that you're like, you can learn a lot. You listen to the wisdom, the knowledge that comes with it. And even just, watching the way you live your life, I'm like, okay, it helps you think in ways to bring that onto your own life.
I always like seeing, I watch guys that do big things and watch guys that grow big businesses. And, these guys, again, just like you said, they never could believe where they are today. And it's amazing what little steps in the same direction every single day will get you. And I've talked about before, but they call it imposter syndrome, and for me to have a business that does several $1 million a year and it just doesn't even feel, like it's just, I'm the lawn guy, dude. Like, I am the lawn guy. And so it's been a fun run. And when we look back on what happened, in past 10, 20 years, and then we imagine what's going to happen in the next 5 or 10 years, when we do have now we know that we need our nose in those books and studying. And now we know we need to soak up that knowledge. And we know that what these people say that have been there and done it is not BS. It's true. And then we filter out the BS that we know doesn't work, and we start applying all of these techniques that work. It will be really interesting to see what we're doing in 3, 4, 5, 10 years, because again, I can't imagine that I'm doing what I'm doing, and you can't either. It's just insane.
Definitely.
So, well, on that note, I enjoyed you coming down here. I think you told me kind of right off the bat that you would come down here and do the podcast.
Yeah.
I didn't know who would do the podcast. No clue, but right off the bat, you said that you would. And so I really do appreciate it. I appreciate you coming down. It has been a great hour, which these things could go for 2 hours if you wanted, but we don't have AC in here yet. But it is a good place to hang out, and I've enjoyed my conversation with you. If you ever need anything from us, you know where you can find us.
Likewise.
You need to let me know when you go down to Port Aransas so I can feed you a prickly pear margarita at Beer House.
Probably June.
Yeah, well, let me know when you go down there, because that patio down there on the corner, it's at Avenue G and 11th Street.
Yeah.
It is the best spot for people watching, and it's just a great spot to sit. So
I love Port A.
I
love all your restaurants. I've been to actually multiple. I've been to McGill's. I froze my butt off in the winter there, but
we try, man. We try hard. Yeah. We try real hard.
It's clear. It's actually clear. It's very obvious when I go. Like it's very well thought out. Like the layout's done. I can see your artistry throughout each place I've been to.
That's the only artistic, and I appreciate that. The only artistic ability I have is designing outdoor areas. I've been doing it for so long, and I have to take, like you deal with patients, I deal with clients that have an outdoor area, and I've got to come up with a solution for them that works. And if there's one thing I really enjoy, it is designing outdoor areas. Like I enjoy it. So anyway, well, that's all for now. This was Business Under Fire. If you need to find me, you can email me at Tommy@BusinessUnderFire. I'm on Face Trash under Tommy Bonner. You can send that. We have a Business Under Fire Face Trash Facebook page, and all the podcasts are on Apple, Spotify, all that stuff. I'm not even techie enough to send people the link, which should be no surprise to you. But I am learning. That is one of the things that I decided that I had to get better at was tech, because it's kind of shooting me in the foot a little bit. And so I'm a work in progress. But anyway, thanks for being here, Dodge. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
Adios. Are you looking for the best bites and coldest drinks in Port Aransas? Come grab a beer and a burger with us at Beer House, where the patio's always popping and the drinks are always top shelf. We're known for our signature prickly pear margarita, which is a hit, and our burgers are some of the best in Texas. We'd love to see you there.